Hey guys, Cameron Walker here, your favorite Huntsville realtor. Today I'm bringing you the update for new construction in Huntsville, Alabama and the surrounding areas. I've had a lot of clients this year that bought new construction. As a matter of fact, over half the clients that have worked with me on purchasing a home did end up going with new construction. And at least another quarter of buyers gave it a fair shake, took a look at it, decided to buy a resale for any number of variety of reasons. So I thought with that much demand, it's a reason to bring up, do a video about new construction. The other thing is, we go into the fall and the winter, there's always a change in new construction with inventory levels, the pricing, the incentives. So I wanted to talk about that, make sure it was good timing for everybody that may be looking anytime here in the latter half of the year and thinking about new construction as part of their buying process. Because my mission here is to give you accurate and timely information so that you can make an informed decision when it comes time to move into Huntsville. So no better time than now, right? Something else I want to mention, I'm going to start a new series with model tours for new construction because people have so many different questions about neighborhoods. So I'll tour like model homes, spec homes, homes that are under construction, as well as the neighborhood, kind of give you a sense of what they're like. If you want to see that on this channel, drop a comment below and let me know. If you prefer to see it on another channel, for me to create a completely separate channel to do that, let me know as well. If I do it on this channel, it'll be a separate playlist. It'll be listed by the community, and I'll also put up a website where you can access all of them, if that's easier for you. But I need to know what you guys want before I make a decision about which way to go. And it'll be a variety of different, communities, different price ranges, different parts of town, different size homes, styles, all that. And we'll be able to get some, granularity of detail from the builder prior to the video to really make sure you're well informed. So, all right, back to what we're talking about today, right? So, for this video, really want to talk about where the inventory levels are, where they're going between now and the end of the year, what pricing is going to do, what I'm already seeing when I've been working with clients and making offers and closing on homes, talk about incentives, where they are now, why they are what they are, how to best utilize them to get your best deal. And I'm going to talk about what's going on in the different price ranges and what you can expect in one part of town versus another, and what level of like fit, finish, things like that in the different price ranges. Last thing I want to talk about is builder reputation. There's some great builders out there that have had sterling reputations for years, continue to maintain those. There's some builders out there that used to have really rough reputations with me in particular and my past clients, and they've really stepped up their game, delivering a better product and better quality of service. And there's some builders that had great reputations that have turned into absolute trash. So we're going to go through that to make sure you know what to expect and how to protect yourself in those situations. So, all right, first thing I want to talk about is inventory level. Builders, doesn't matter if they're the smallest builder or the biggest builder in the nation, they're publicly traded, they all run on their balance sheet. So as we go towards the end of the year, they're going to want to sell as many homes and get those homes, that expense off their balance sheet that they're holding for building that home. They also want to drive up their revenues, right? So sell more homes, make more money, post more revenue. The only way they can do that is to entice buyers to come in, and so they're going to offer some incentives along the way. What we're not going to see much of is new inventory hitting the market. Doesn't mean everything that's on the market today is going to be the only thing, but over the last couple of months, and we see this every year, inventory drives down on the new construction side because they know there's not as many buyers in the market in the fall and the winter. We're seeing that right now. There's a lower level of inventory, fewer homes coming on the market. So it's right in line with what we've seen in previous years. It's a little bit more exacerbated this year because we are seeing those higher interest rates in the last year and a half than what we saw previously. And the builders are kind of caught wise, right? So last year they were caught a little flat-footed by that rise in interest rates and their inventory built up. They've spent the intervening year selling off more of the inventory and having fewer starts. So there's still been a lot of inventory out there. I don't want to paint a bleak picture like there's no homes to find. That's not true. But there's less selection than there was before. And that's all by design for the builders because they want to sell as much of that inventory in a calendar year as they can so they can post the best financial results. So where that leaves us is I'm going to talk about kind of three different bands of pricing, and they're pretty broad bands, but I'm seeing similarities in each one of these bands, and I think it'll be helpful for you to know. So I've had several buyers that really wanted to look at $300,000 and below in the last year. Good news is there is inventory there, and there's more than I would have expected before pulling the numbers. In Madison County alone, there's a little over 30 homes, and if we lump in Limestone County, the neighboring county there with Athens and Elkmont, there's over 50 homes on the market right now. And that ebbs and flows, but I think it's going to continue to decrease as we go into December. So what we're seeing in that price range is really driven by some of the larger builders tend to have more homes in that price range, and they're the ones that have a greater ability to absorb changes in the pricing. So last year, some of these builders took homes that were priced, at or near 300,000 and drove them down into the 270s, 260s, 250 even, to sell more homes leading into the end of the year to allow them to post better financial results. Now, will they do that this year? I don't know. I'm not internal to their company. I don't know what they're looking for as far as how many, widgets they need to sell to make their stockholders happy. What I can tell you is I'm already starting to see those price declines like we saw last year. These builders, they want to close by December 31st. A lot of times for their incentives and their price decreases and any freebies they throw your way, they do require in the contract that it does close by December 31st. So you really want to be like early November or earlier for those homes. And here's why. Typically it takes 30 days to close on a home that's completely finished, be it new construction or a resale, if you're financing the purchase. When you go into November and December, you have so many holidays. And we all think about just one holiday, right? We think about Thanksgiving as one day. We think about Christmas as one day. New Year's as one day. We think about Veterans Day as one day. But in actuality, loan officers, loan processors, title companies, county clerks, all these people generally take multiple days off around there, right? So from a practicality standpoint, it's the slowest time of the year when you're doing a loan. And if you have any kind of government component to your loan, you're doing a USDA, a VA, an FHA, any other government-backed program, especially the lender has to go to that organization to get final approval for the loan or for part of the process. Again, those people are going to be out of work too, and there's literally, this is the government. You can't force their hand on anything, right? So all that to say, in order to mitigate those risks, make sure you get the best deal that you can, I do recommend moving forward in early November or earlier if you're trying to take advantage of these end of year incentives. If you're not, that's okay. No rush. You don't want to rush into purchasing a home regardless of the situation. But if your goal is to take advantage of those incentives, that's my recommendation, right? So I think we're going to continue to see prices push down. I don't think they're going to offer much more in the way of financing incentives. They tend to cap out around $5,000. Every now and then they'll offer some discounted rates in this price range, but not a lot. Where last year I saw them, once they kind of bottomed out on the price, they started offering like refrigerators and blinds, which aren't common in our market to be included in a new home construction. As a matter of fact, like unless they had already been under contract and those things were added and now they're selling the home with them, you almost never see it unless it's a special incentive like this. What you can expect as far as like style of home and location, homes in the sub $300,000 price range and really under $325,000 are going to be 3 or 4 bedroom, single level homes, 2 bathroom, 2 car garage on a smaller lot. That's not all there is. There are a handful of 2-story homes and homes that'll exceed 1,900 square feet, particularly if they're 2-story, because it's less expensive for a builder to build up than to build out. So they do, you'll see a little more square footage in those 2-story homes. There's not very many of those across the market. Out of the 50 plus, you're probably looking at 5 or less that are 2-story homes, right? And so if that's what you're looking for, acting sooner rather than later because of the limited number of inventory might be advantageous to you, because I don't anticipate many more coming on the market. But in any event, that's what you can expect. Smaller lots, typical buyer for these, it can be anybody, don't get me wrong, but there's kind of 3 main people I see buying this. First-time home buyers just starting out, this is a good price point for them. It's a manageable house. They may not have the background in maintaining an older home, so they don't really have to worry about it with new construction. They've got the warranties and the newer products in there. Very similar is like downsizing buyers. They don't want as large a lot to maintain. They don't want as big a house to maintain. They're empty nesters. Kids are gone. They still want bedrooms for people that come visit, but they don't need to maintain a large house. They don't need to maintain a large lot. The prices are much more, conducive towards like as you move on towards a retirement or fixed income. So there's a lot of benefits there. And they also don't want to do the maintenance on the house, right? They're not looking for fixer-uppers. They want a house they can move into today, live in, right? So that's another kind of wide band of people that are interested in that. Third one's really investors, right? So for so long, builders wouldn't work with investors on new construction. We've really seen that change over the last year and a half as that inventory level built up, and they're still working with investors today. they have special qualifications for down payment. They may not offer as much incentive in some cases, but most builders are being pretty flexible with the investors. Of course, investors like the properties because they don't have to worry about the maintenance on the property like they do on an older one. And new construction homes either rent at a premium as far as the rental amount, or they at least rent more quickly because they're just more desirable to live in for people, right? So those are kind of the three main buyers in that price range. The next price range, really wide. It's a big, thick price range, and the reason is there's similarities within it, even though it's so broad. Now I'm going to say that's from 325, 350 to 550, 600,000. So like on the outer edges, right, a $300,000 price spread, pretty wide. And of course, that's where most houses in the market in new construction fall within that price band. Why there's similarities there, and what I'm seeing is, yes, there's variability in house size, fit and finish, location, lot size, everything, right? But where I'm seeing in this price band is more movement in the price and less so in the incentive. So there are companies and builders in this price range that have had spec inventory that have been on the ground for a long time, and they've taken $40,000 to $60,000 price decreases. Now that's an outlier. There are also some builders that have taken minor price increases. And there's the goofballs that do like $5 to $100. They're just manipulating like Zillow and Realtor.com. And, because every time there's a price change, you go back to the top of the list. And then, of course, if you're registered on my website or any other, you get an email, with homes with price changes. You're getting that email. They're getting it in front of more eyeballs. That's all they're doing. They do that all across the country, and it's not unique to new construction. So the ones that we're really talking about are the ones that are changing more significantly in price to entice buyers. So some builders, as they start a home, they may add to it, or there may be some customization, and they will actually take the price up if they have that confidence level they'll be able to sell it. Or maybe they're accounting for an increased incentive. So if they're going to offer $5,000 more towards closing costs, they will bring the price of the house up by $5,000 to offset it. So they're taking out of one pocket and putting in the other. The ones that are having the more dramatic price decreases, 10,000, 20,000, 40, 60, like I mentioned, those are homes that they're the last homes in a neighborhood. The builder really needs to get them off their balance sheets. They've been in the ground for a long time. They're by a train track, right? Something that is forcing that builder's hand to say, hey, look, we need to take a price decrease to move this inventory. And depending, so long as some of those situations and locations and whatever about the home doesn't bother you, or it's not disadvantageous for you, this is an opportunity for you to strike and get a better deal on a home. We will continue to see more of this as we go into later fall and early winter, because again, same motivation. The builder wants to get those houses off their books and get that revenue on their books, right? So where this is going to impact you and the offers you make, right? So this is where you can either offer lower on the house, which a lot of times the builder doesn't like because they're calculating in future appraisals, and if you pay less, it could impact future appraisals for closings because it's more of a one-to-one. But where I've seen a lot, and we can do that, don't get me wrong, we can certainly get the price down on many houses. But another factor, and something I've done with a lot of clients, is we get more lumped in at that price. So we get them to throw in a fence, blinds, refrigerator, other things that we may need or want. We have more room for negotiation on terms. We don't necessarily have to close in 30 days. We can close in 45 or 60. And if you hear some noise down here, it's my pup. My Labradoodle down here is a little lonely, so giving him some scratches. But anyway, now my little miniature golden doodle's in on the action. So anyway, back to houses, right? So being able to lump those things in at those prices, get better terms, and we can't always get a one-to-one, right? So house is listed at $450, and we want a $10,000 fence. We don't necessarily get the full $10,000. Maybe we have to go up to 401 or 402 to offset, but we're still getting $8,000 or $9,000 in the deal. There's a lot of builders in this price range that are offering it like use it your way type incentives, where they're offering $20,000, and you can use that towards buying down your rate, or getting a fence or blinds or whatever else, right? Or changing some other feature of the home. That's a little misleading, right? So they're leading you by the nose when they give you that, and they're basically saying you only get this $20,000. Some cases that's accurate. That's all they'll do. If they have the confidence level that they're priced appropriately and the market will respond, fine. But a lot of times it's to prevent you from asking for more, right? So don't be afraid to have that discussion with me and us to have a discussion with the builder and see if we can get beyond that $20,000. Maybe we use $20,000 towards closing costs and we ask for $5,000 on something else, or a fence or whatever, right? The worst they can tell us is no, and more likely is they're willing to negotiate with us, especially as we push closer and closer to the end of the year. Now, these are spec homes, not to be built homes. The builders, they are still building homes, but we're not going to see many of those come on the market between now and the end of the year because A, they're not going to be finished, and B, they want to price those for spring market after New Year, right? Our spring market kind of starts end of January, beginning of February. They would much rather sell that house 20 grand higher then than sell it to you now. There are some incentives and increased incentives for to-be-built homes right now. So I don't want to say they're all left out, but primarily we're looking at finished homes or nearly finished homes that'll finish in the next 45, 60 days from when you go into contract, and the incentives they're offering for those to close by the end of the year. All right, so another thing we want to take into account with these homes is what you're getting for the money. Depending on where you buy, you're going to get a higher level of fit and finish, generally further away from the major cities of Huntsville and Madison than you are once you're in those for the same price band, right? Maybe you'll get more land, maybe you'll get more square footage in some of those areas too. So I just say proper expectations for what you're going to get within the price range, within the area that you're looking for. And the area is really going to determine that, whether it's school zone, commute distance, views, prestige of a community. It could be neighborhood by neighborhood, it could be city by city. So I wouldn't go take a home in Tony or Meridianville and expect to comp it against some parts of Madison and get the same house for the same price. There's going to be some kind of trade-off there. So just know that could be in fit and finish, it could be in lot size, it could be in, of course, the price point and the incentives too. And just because the builder offers an incentive in community A doesn't mean they offer the same in community B. Although the smarter builders, I feel like, are doing that across the board because they know you may shop 3 of their communities in 3 different areas because maybe school district isn't important to you or as important as the floor plan or whatever, the financing of the price. And so they know that, they want to offer the same incentive, so you're not pitting one community against another in their books. Again, just because they're offering it doesn't mean that's all we have to take, but they're smart to make it, more level across all their communities, right? So, we're going to see more variability in price, less so in incentive, at least in what's offered. There is opportunity to go beyond what they're offering. And we're going to see the most inventory in this price band, and we're going to see the most variability in different areas. Going back to like the $300,000 homes, we're going to see those in Owens Crossroad, Meridianville, Harvest, Hazel Green, and out towards Athens and Elkmont and Limestone County. When we're talking about this, $300,000 to $600,000 price range, we will have a few in closer to like 340 in Madison, but we're going to see the bulk of that in like new construction in some of the northern reaches of Huntsville, down in like Hayes Farm area. We're going to see that all over, right? Not as much in as many places, but spread more evenly. The next price band is going to be $600,000 and up, and it's like that. Like what's on the market today is almost $2 million. So that's obviously a huge price band, right? 1.2, 1.3, $1.4 million. So how are all these homes in common? Well, we definitely see price adjustments going on within that price band, and quite sizable ones in many cases. 50, 60, all the way up to 80,000 I saw in MLS. But what is more common here is to see a financing incentive, either a builder that offers a fixed rate. I've seen builders out there offering like 4.99, 5.99, and today's market rates are like 7.25. So you're talking 1.25 to 2.25 below what market rates are. And the reason they're offering these incentives is they know what I've been telling you for a long time. And if you're new to my channel, you're going to hear it for the first time. If you've been here for a while, it might be the 20th. But a 1% increase in interest rate corresponds to a 10% decrease in purchasing power for the same loan payment. So to illustrate this, if you had a $600,000 loan at one interest rate, and that interest rate went up by 1%, you would have to take a $540,000 loan to get the same payment. The builders know this. They're not new to this game. They do not want to lower their price by that $60,000, particularly if they've already taken a large price decrease and it hasn't moved the market enough for them to offload their inventory. What they would rather do is give you maybe 20, 15, 30, somewhere $1,000 to buy down your interest rate to get you that payment that taking a much larger price decrease would have got you to, right? So for them, that's a win-win. You get the payment you want, they don't have to come down as much to get you to that number. Now, these are typically only available with their preferred lender, although there's some exceptions. The bulk of them, it's either a lender they own outright, or they've gone behind the scenes and bought some lower loan locks with these. And it is going to vary by like loan program, your ability to qualify, all of that. So just know that going in. I have one recently, it was advertising $499. Well, it turns out on VA, it's not that. So we had to start looking at some alternatives to find, get them the rate they wanted on the loan program that they wanted to be on. So that's, we're seeing more of that for those reasons, right? There's a builder out there right now that I'm negotiating with on a property. They always offer 1% of the purchase price towards closing costs with the use of their lender. And towards closing costs could be bank fees, title fees, or buying down your interest rate. Some of their preferred lenders offer an additional $5,000 for using them if you come from that builder. And right now they're offering 3% to use it however you want. And it doesn't matter what lender you use. So that could be, once again, to buy a fence, blinds, refrigerator, whatever, upgrade some various things in the home, or you could use all of that towards buying down your interest rate. That is going to make a significant difference in your payment over the life of that loan. So when are these advantageous versus not? When is it better to take a lower price, negotiate on that? And when is it better to negotiate on like a lower interest rate or increased incentive? So if we're just talking price versus interest rate, for the first 3 years, I think price is always going to win. And here's why. If you're going to sell a house 3 years down the road, you're going to have to bank on some pretty steep market appreciation to offset the closing costs that you paid on the first time, the closing costs you'll pay when you sell it, and realtor fees, right? And while a couple of years ago, you could almost guarantee that, the market's leveled out now, and we see variability month to month, up and down. So you cannot bank on that within 3 years. 3 to 5 years, a little bit gray, right? I would think it still breaks towards taking money off the purchase price, but that's not a slam dunk guarantee. If there's enough change in interest rates or, in appraised values of the home and market appreciation, it might be better to take the interest rate. 5 to 7, again, it's still a gray area, but it starts leaning more towards taking the lower interest rate. And from 7 years on, typically the lower interest rate is going to be a better option for you. Now, there's no guarantee, right? The market can do whatever the market can do in 7 years. If I could predict it, you'd see me on CNBC with my $1 billion, right? But given the best data we have and looking at historical changes, 7 years is a pretty decent bet. Here's why. Over 7 years, you can generally expect some appreciation. So if you just took a market rate, you took some off the house, yeah, you got a little bit better delta, but not significant. But if you took a lower interest rate, that's going down, that's going up. This is the equity you're building off your payment. This is the equity the market is building for you. The delta becomes greater, right? But that's assuming the market goes up. Now, if the market weren't to, then it stayed flat or went down, that's different. But at 7 years is a pretty good expectation that the market's gone up. Now, this doesn't account for ARMs, doesn't account for like 2-1 and 3-1 buy downs and other specialty programs. Those are different, and I can't get into that level of granularity, and quite frankly, your lender needs to do that with you, but it gives you an idea. So who are people that benefit the most from these different ones, right? So we say interest rate a lot of times benefits people at the higher end of the price range more, but not always, right? So there are times that people at the lower end of the price range benefit as much or more from interest rate. What I will say is people, and I've sold new construction for years before getting into more of a retail realtor like I am now and selling new construction and resale. What I saw were people that were on low to no down payment programs typically use the builder incentive to offset closing costs rather than adjust their rate. So what you'll see is somebody on a VA, USDA, any kind of grant program where it covers the down payment, even like, FHA with 3.5% down, or some of the 3 to 5% conventional loans. Those people, in a lot of cases, those buyers did want to use the incentive to offset their closing costs. They wanted to come out of pocket with as least amount of money as possible. Again, this leaves you a little bit of risk if you're selling the home more quickly. If you only plan to be here for 3 years, you're not going to turn it into a rental or something. Coming in with no equity or very low equity can be a risky position. But if you're going to be in the home longer term, then that significantly reduces your risk there, right? But I want to put that out there so that you know it. It's on a case-by-case basis. We have to talk about what you want to do and what's the best fit for you. But I want you to be aware going in of what things to consider, right? So the longer in your home, the more the interest rate's going to impact you. The shorter you're in the home, either covering that closing cost and or the purchase price, coming down on the purchase price is more advantageous. Um, let's see. So something else you can do. Now this, like, a lot of people don't think about this, especially as prices are going down. So if they sold homes at, a builder sold a home at 280, right? And say it was 1,800 square feet, 3 bedrooms, and over the summer, and all those closed. And then they lowered the price to 265 in the fall. Same house. Those 280 homes are going to be the comps for the appraisals, meaning you're coming in with some built-in equity most likely. Now, eventually the appraisers will catch up and bring it back down to 265, but there's going to be an interim period where they don't. What you could do is offer, let's say we got the builder to rock bottom, they're offering $5,000 in closing costs. They're going to sell you a house at 265, but you need another $2,000, $3,000 to cover all your closing costs. You could offer the builder over their asking price and ask for increased incentive. That way they're made whole, it's net, they're fine, they're making the same amount of money, and you're in a position where you've added a few dollars a month to your payment and significantly lowered your cash to close. You could also do this with an interest rate. That would be something you'd absolutely have to run by your lender and get some scenarios to see if that made more sense. And there may be times where it does. So just something to bear in mind, like, and that's at any price range. If you're trying to get the builder to cover something and we've whittled them down to rock bottom. And sorry if you hear my dogs in the background fighting, but if we've whittled them down to rock bottom, that's an opportunity for us to then take advantage of that situation, manipulate the numbers so that they're a better fit for you. So just things to consider when you're going through the process and you're buying and you're selling, and you want to see how to negotiate and come up with the best terms for you. These are all things I've done with past clients. They're things I'm doing with current clients, and they're things we can do with you, especially given that we're going into the fall and the winter. So, in the spring, it's a little harder to pull this off because there's more people looking to buy. The builders aren't in a position where they have to negotiate as strongly, right? So we kind of get the double whammy right now. Interest rates have been ticking back up the last few weeks, and we're going into the fall and winter. So the builders are working against a headwind, and we can take advantage of that and make the situation the best for you that we can. All right, so we talk about, the different price bands, what to expect within them, what incentives, pricing, and, fit and finish, things like that, what parts of town you can expect those houses to be in. So let's talk a little bit about, like, what you can expect from the builders as far as, like, customer service, quality of build, service after the sale. I'm happy to report there's some builders that I worked with previously in previous years that absolutely wrote off, would not work with them, recommended clients do not go with them. At the end of the day, it's your decision what house you buy, and I'm not going to tell you no, but I'm going to give you my honest interpretation and opinion of the situation and past experience, right? So I did have some buyers this year that absolutely wanted to buy from a certain builder that I had kind of written off for a while, and we had amazing experiences. The sales rep was great, the project manager was great, the house was delivered on time, in great condition, as you would expect if you're paying full price for a house. We even got incentives, and then service after the sale has been amazing. So, like, this builder that 2 years ago I had horrific experience with, now I'm having a great experience. I've had multiple people buy with them because I'm talking to them like I'm talking to you, like I'm telling them about this great experience. Well, who doesn't want that, right? So when it comes down between two builders, one I haven't worked with or one that's kind of middling and one that I've had a great experience with, well, of course I'm going to recommend my client go with the better experience, all other things being equal. There's some builders that I've worked with in the past that have kind of maintained steady. There's builders that I'd heard about but hadn't worked with, that I've worked with, that have just knocked it out of the park. And there's one in particular that I absolutely love. If I were to build another house, that's the one I would go with. Just the level of service across the board has been phenomenal. The condition of the home, when you walk through homes, they're spec homes, right? Nobody's living in them. It's not a model. They are as tight as they can be. They look like they're move-in ready that day. And this includes like attic spaces, everything, the grounds. And then I've resold some of their homes that are less than a year old. And I literally had one that had one inspection finding. It's the only time I've ever had that in my career. I recommend a really thorough home inspector. And he came back and he's like, they must have had a home inspection prior to closing, and the builder took care of everything. And the inspection, the finding was so minor, we didn't even request the repair. So that builder, phenomenal. Another builder has had a sterling reputation for decades, and they are absolute trash. I had buyers have a horrific contract experience with them, a lot of manipulation from the builder, a lot of stepping outside the bounds of the contract. Eventually, we parted ways and went with a different builder, and they're now living in a beautiful home. I'm sure they're watching this, so hi. I'm not going to out you who you are, but you know. And then I've had some friends that bought with the same builder. I wasn't their agent. They were using another mutual friend of ours. And gosh, they had very few custom changes they wanted to do, including like screening in a back porch. Builder agreed to do it at a certain price. They had 45 days to do it. As of the last week before closing, we do what's called the blue tape walkthrough, where you go through and mark up any cosmetic items that need to be, fixed by the builder. And it should all be cosmetic at that point. Rarely is it, but it should be. Their, patio had still not been screened in. They talked to the builder about it. They said, "Oh yeah, those guys are coming today. We're going to take care of it." This guy, my friend, drove by the night before closing, and nothing had been done on that patio. He shows up for the final walkthrough an hour before closing, and they're finally working on it. As you can imagine, it's trash. It's in horrible condition. It wasn't finished. There were other things throughout the home that were part of the blue tape that the builder either just outright lied to him about and said, "No, this is like how it's supposed to look." Argued with them about the condition of it, finally caved on doing some of these updates, it's cosmetic touches and repairs, and then just didn't do them. So my friend goes to closing, his house isn't finished, and he's paying a lot of money for this. It's a high-end builder, high-end finishes, supposedly a nice community, so sterling reputation as a builder. Come to find out, so the builder, promises, "Oh, in the first week that you're in, we'll finish up these little ticky-tacky things." They're not all little ticky-tacky things first. Second, they don't return calls, emails, texts. They haven't scheduled any time to come in and do the repairs. Then my friend finds out that some of the people who have been living in here in this community for coming up on a year, none of their warranty items have been touched either. And so they're actually forcing the builder to extend their warranty so that these items that they're not showing up for but are covered under the warranty will eventually be taken care of. And here's the thing, once the builder closes with you, they have your money. And outside of a lawsuit, there's not really much financial gain for them. They like word of mouth, realtors bringing people, and then the threat of a lawsuit are really the only things that can really drive them to perform if they're so inclined not to. This builder, also heard through the grapevine, has also had to switch lumber suppliers because they quit paying one. And so that lumber supplier quit providing it. So it might be a situation where this builder's on the way down. And that's a really bad situation, right? Because then if they go bankrupt, they're not going to, give you any of your warranty items, right? So, and who knows what corners they're going to cut on the way out the door. So all that to say, there are reputable builders that are still maintaining great quality. There are some that are way exceeding, an already good reputation. There are some that have dug out of the hole and they're delivering beyond what anybody expected from them. And there's some that have fallen from grace. And I'm not going to out any names on here. Like the one from 2 years ago, if I'd outed them, people wouldn't be buying with them. And right now we're having great experiences. And I don't want to get sued by the other one that's delivering, like a really tacky and poor experience. That said, rest assured, I'm not going to push you towards a builder that I've had a bad experience with recently. And I'm going to inform you of any builder that I've worked with, or I know other agents or other people have worked with, because ultimately it's your decision. I don't decide who you buy with or don't. I just want you to be informed when you make the decision. So that's really where we're at. I want to hear from you about, whether or not you want the model tours and neighborhood tours for new construction on this channel. I'm going to drop a link below with new construction. You can filter it by the area, the city, the county, the size of the home, bedrooms, bathrooms, price range, all that. I'll just put a generic link so you can do all that. So let me know if you got questions. I'd love to work with you. And if you're going to be moving in the next, say 3 to 4 months, I think now's a prime time to take advantage of the builder's incentive to sell homes between now and the end of the year and get them closed, and the pricing and incentives that they're going to offer you and concessions to entice you to do so. So give me a call. My contact number's always below.